Reading from the book of Job, chapter 9, verses 23 to 29. Oh, that my words were written. Oh, that they were inscribed in a book. Oh, that with an iron pen and lead they were engraved in the rock forever. For I know that my Redeemer lives, and at the last he will stand upon the earth. And after my skin has been thus destroyed, yet in my flesh I shall see God, whom I shall see for myself, and my eyes shall behold and not another. My heart faints within me. If you say, how we will pursue him, and the root of the matter is found in him. Be afraid of the sword, for wrath brings the punishment of the sword, that you may know there is a judgment. There is a story told about a little girl who got lost in a crowded marketplace. Scared and overwhelmed by the noise and the mass of people rushing past her, she stood on tiptoes, craning her neck, searching for a familiar face. A kind stranger noticed her distress and knelt down, asking, "Are you lost?" The girl, wiping her tears, nodded but said, "I just want to go home. I want my father to come find me." She didn't want a map or even good directions. She wanted the comforting presence of the one who knew her best, her Redeemer, her protector. That story captures the longing of the human heart, especially in times of suffering. When life spins out of control, when pain clouds our vision, we don't just seek answers or explanations. We long for someone who knows us and will come for us, someone who will redeem what seems broken beyond repair. That longing is at the heart of the journey of Job. Job chapters 15 through 21 describes the second cycle of accusations between Job and his friends. By this point, the positions of his friends have hardened. They are merely repeating themselves. Eliphaz begins the second round, but unlike his earlier somewhat diplomatic tone, he now directly accuses Job of speaking out of iniquity rather than wisdom. His assumption is simple and cruel. If Job suffers, it must be because Job has sinned. Eliphaz leaves no room for innocence in the face of suffering. Job's rebuttal is powerful. He points out the failure of his friends to comfort him or offer true companionship. They had come to console him, but their words were like salt on an open wound. His friends offer no true hope. Their only logic is that suffering equals guilt and death is the only release. If the roles were reversed, Job says, he would have spoken words of comfort and hope, not condemnation and suspicion. Job, feeling abandoned even by his friends, turns in the appeal to the ultimate judge, to God himself. He was deeply confident that God alone can and will testify on his behalf. Even with death looming over him, Job refuses to let go of hope. Yet, Job clings to the belief that there must be a way beyond despair, a vindication that only God can provide. Bildad follows Eliphaz, venting his frustration at Job's persistence. How dare Job continue to defend himself against their wisdom? How dare he criticize their counsel? Bildad then launches into a harsh and unyielding description of the fate of the wicked, clearly implying that Job is on that path. But again, Job's reply rises above. Here, in the midst of Job's anguish and despair, we glimpse a dawn of faith breaking through the dark clouds. Slowly but surely, through all the gloom, a deeper realization forms. God is not absent, nor is he indifferent. And though Job cannot see it fully, he knows that one day God himself will come. God will stand on the earth, not in abstraction, but as a redeemer and a vindicator, to defend Job personally. This brings out Job's finest declaration of his faith in God and in eternity and in resurrection and judgment. Despite the darkness, his faith clings to what he knows of God, what his forefathers have told him, and he has learned and held to all of his life. For I know that my Redeemer lives, and at the last he will stand upon the earth. And after my skin has been thus destroyed, yet in my flesh I shall see God, whom I shall see for myself, and my eyes shall behold and not another. Job 19:25 to 27. Stripped of everything, health, wealth, reputation, friendship, and loyalty. Yet Job holds in faith and hope to the living and life-giving God, his Redeemer. Job claims his inheritance in God's redemption. Not only does he know that there is life after death, but he believes that he will share in it and see God himself on the very earth that is so mixed up and painful. There is a future beyond the present despair. Beyond theology, he moves into persevering faith. In the final chapter of the book, we read Job's own testimony. I had heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees you. Job 42 verse 5. God never answered Job's questions about suffering and justice. He didn't explain the mechanics behind Job's trials. Instead, he gave Job something far greater, the knowledge that God knows and is in control. Through Job's struggle, it becomes clear that right philosophical answers can never satisfy the soul during suffering. Our flesh throws up the misconception that explanations will ease the pain, when in fact we cannot bear most explanations. What we need is a certainty of God's mercy and presence. And God often chooses to meet that deeper need, not merely satisfying curiosity. He satisfies the soul with himself. His answer is always, I am with you. That is all that you need. The image of a kinsman redeemer was deeply meaningful in Job's cultural context. A kinsman redeemer, Goel in Hebrew, was able to, if he wished, restore the lost inheritance of his family or clan, repay debts on their behalf. In the story of Boaz and Ruth, Boaz was the Goel of Ruth's family, since he, though a Moabitess, was the widow of an Israelite man and one who had come for shelter under the wings of the God of Israel. Boaz redeemed the property of her husband and married her, raising up seed for her dead husband. That son became the ancestor of the Messiah, the Redeemer of all the world. Through Boaz, God fulfilled her hopes beyond all she could imagine. In much the same way, Job placed his trust in God, his Redeemer. And like Ruth, he found that God's presence was more than enough. The final response from Zophar in this second cycle follows the same tired formula. He expresses his frustration at Job for not admitting his wickedness. Then he delivers a long rebuke about the short-lived prosperity of the wicked, clearly aiming his words at Job. But Job finally responds to these accusations by challenging the idea that wickedness always leads to immediate downfall. In fact, Job argues, many wicked people live in luxury and die respected. Life under the sun, Job notes, is complex and often unjust. Yet, Job's faith is not based on what he sees, but by faith he holds to the unseen certainty of a Redeemer who lives. Throughout it all, Job holds on to his trust that there is a God and he finally rewards those who fear him. Though he doesn't understand the details, though the how and when of redemption are unclear, he knows the who. His Redeemer lives. His hope against every evidence of this present world is that he will see him with his own eyes, even after death claims his body. When we fear God, we are not guaranteed a smooth road or an easy path. We are promised the presence of the Redeemer. And this is what our heart needs most. Let us, like Job, stand on the faith that says, even through tears and unanswered questions, I know that my Redeemer lives. Let us seek his presence even when he withholds his explanations. Let us remember that we will see his face even when it looks impossible. Because when the Redeemer comes, as surely we will be raised in glory to behold him with our own eyes and find in him the answer to the cry of our heart. God bless.